Alright everyone, I've not done one of these in a long time. Today we have a Sudoku. It's called Snarky Puppy Zavi by Aaron Leday, also called Aspartagus. Sudoku is a tribute to the band Snarky Puppy and their song Zavi. Alright, so these are the rules. Sudoku, fill each row, column, and region with the digits 1 through 9. So obviously every row, column, and 3x3 region, we can then put the digits 1 through 9 in it. We also have German whispers. This whole gray line here, all of these ones are German whisper lines. Neighboring digits along the line must have a difference of at least 5. So if this was a 4, then the one next to it would have to be a 9. If this is a 2, say, then this could be the digits 7 through 9, one of those digits. We have X's and V's. The X's here will sum to 10, and the V's here will sum to 5. Cipher. Each letter, except X and V, corresponds to a unique digit. A cell with a letter in it contains its corresponding digit, such as this is an A here, so whatever, say if this is a 5, then this would also be a 5. Fog, there's some cells covered in fog down here. They'll be discovered when neighboring digits are filled in. Alright, those are the rules. Now it's my turn. Let's have it go. What I like to do typically is start with German whispers, because a big thing is that German whispers will alternate high to low. Because if we have a digit 1 through 4, then the digit next to it has to be 5 greater than it. So it would be, at minimum, a 6 through 9. Another thing is that we can never put a 5 on a German whisper line, because 5 different from 5 is either 0 or 10, and we cannot use those numbers. So I typically like to color code these. Every other box here, there, and there, and color code them. Let's go with green. And then we can do the other ones, and we'll just color those with, say, pink. Now, so since we cannot have a 5 on the line, we know that one of these in here is a 5. That also means that the letter Y and the letter S cannot be 5s. So we'll keep that in mind. We also know that since there are 3 greens in here, which could be high or low, we don't know, we do know that one of these is the other green. Same with this, but one of these is the other pink instead. 5 could be over here. 5 could be a P, because we know that these 3 are the same, and they're all in different row, columns, and boxes, so the 5 could be a P. That is possible. Let's see here. What other letters do we have? We have A's, P's, and we have Y's here as well. So what we could do is we know that the Y is pink, so let's just make that pink as well. The A is green, let's just make that green. Oh, and look at that. If we have 2 digits summing to 5, then we know that they're both going to be low digits. So our green digits are actually all of our low digits, and our pink digits are all of our high digits. The numbers here kind of make it a little bit hard to read, the 8 here, but we'll leave that as that. We do know that this is then a high digit as well. We do have 3 high digits and 3 low digits. We do know that there has to be a 5 in one of these spots. These being high or low doesn't really do much for us currently. What we can do with the whispers is that we know that this cannot be a 6. Because if this was a 6, then both this and this would have to be 1. And we can't do that. So we know that this is not a 6. This is not a 6 for the same reason. So we do know that there's a 6 in one of these two. squares. We can do the same kind of thing with the 4s in here. Actually, all of these can't be 4. Because if this is a 4, then both of these are 9. This is a 4, both of those are 9. If that's a 4, both of these are 9. So these two here are actually a 4-5 pair. We know this can be a 6, because if this is a 6, then both this and this are 1s. And that's possible. I wonder if there's anything else. If these are any higher numbers. What about these? I think one of these is going to have to be... Is one of these going to have to be a 9? Say if this is a 7-8 pair. And then we'll just say this is 7, this is 8. Then we know that something that's 3 away from 8, or 5 away from 8 has to be a 3. Or... Sorry, this cannot be a 3 because 5 away from 7 is a 1 or a 2. This also cannot be a 3. This is a 3. This becomes a 1-2 pair. Looks like that's fine. This would have to be the 2. This would have to be the 1. Which means that this would be a 9. This would have to be a 6. So it looks like that does work. Now we don't know if those are the correct numbers, because I think we could probably put a 9 in here as well, I would think. So this is a 9. And even if that's a 7 or an 8, because if it's a 9, this could be anything. So it would limit it by this, a 7 or an 8. So if this is an 8, then it could be a 3 still. If it's a 7, it has to be a 1 or a 2. This would be the 1 or a 2. And this would be the 3, which would make this one the 8. This would be the 7, this would be the 6. 5 and 6 is 1, that would be the 2. Seems like that works as well. This would also then be the 6. And it seems like that works. So let's leave that for now. Let's go in that bottom area and we'll do the same kind of thing. Same reason that this one is a 6 up here, that these cannot be a 6. Same reason that these cannot be a 4. Yeah, these ones cannot be 6s, because then you have to have the 1 on both of these. So there's a 4 here. That means that this is then a 5-6 pair in here. Now, it didn't look like there was anything else we could really do with this. Is there anything else we can do with the 6s and 4s that are in here? I don't think so. Because if this is a 6, these could both... Oh, if this is a 6, these both could not be 1s because they're different letters. Therefore, this is not a 6. Same thing with this. If this is a 6, then both these two would have to be 1s, but it cannot be. So that's not a 6. We could do the same thing with this with a 4. So then these two would both be 9s. That doesn't work. Same with this one. This could not be a 4. These ones, we don't have the same restriction on it because the letters aren't over there. Now, does this help us in any way? I'm going to say no. There might be some more to figure out about this, though. We know that this is no longer a 4, which means that this cannot be a 6, which means that this one cannot be a 1. So we know that these are all 3 separate digits, but if this is a 6, then it doesn't really help us too much. We know that these are all 3 different digits, but again, if that's a 4, it doesn't help us too much. But maybe we're on the right track here. What do we look at next? I is just by itself. How many different letters do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we do have 9 different letters, which is all the letters are being used in Snarky Puppy. Okay, so if this is a low digit, a low digit, a low digit, and this is low as well. That's already 4 low digits. And then we have a high digit, a high digit, a high digit. It's just 3, and then we have this. So either the P is a high digit, or it's a 5. Could we say anything if a U is a 5? Does that really do much for us? That just means that this would not be a 6. I don't know if that helps too much. I do know that the P's could all be 5s. I do wonder if those are all 5s, then if we can do anything with that. Because it does give us a lot of 5s here. That does mean that there's a 5 in one of those 2 spots. We do get that that's not a 4. That would make this a high digit. Oh, there we go. If those are both 5s, where does 5 go in this box? It'd have to go on the top. It cannot go on the top. Therefore, P is not 5. Therefore, P is high, and this is 5, and this is our first real digit. That means that this is also a P, which means that all the P's here are 7, 8, or 9. And then this is our 6, this is our 5 down here, which puts a 5 over here. Now, does this really help us that much? You know, this is no longer a 6. I'm kind of looking to see if there's any triples that are forming. Like if there's 3 sets of 1, 2, 3, that means that 1, 2, 3 can't be anywhere else. We do know that a 5 is now one of these 3 spots. We know there's not a 5 here. If this is a 5, then this is a 5. Then there's a 5 in one of these 2 spots, which then means that's a 4, that's a 5. Let's check that real quick because I can't do it all in my head. If this is a 5, that's a 4, that's a 5, that's a 5. I should have, realistically, if this was correct, it probably would have unveiled these, so it probably means that this is not a 5. However, the way the fog works typically is you shouldn't just put random numbers in to see what's behind the fog. It does seem like that could work. It does not seem like anything is actually restricting that, except for the fog down here, but that's... It also might be that this digit doesn't actually reveal it. It says will be filled in when neighboring digits are filled in. It does say that. I don't know if we can just assume, because maybe it's gonna count these ones as the neighboring digits or something. So maybe it wouldn't fill. But the case was if this was a 5. So we could say that the 5 would be in one of these 2 spots. But that just pushes a 5 in any of those, and then a 5 in any of these. Well, any of these 3. If this is a 4, obviously this is not a 4, but that does force this to be a 9 and this to be a 9. Forces this to be not a 4, and this to be not a 1, because that couldn't be a 9 anyway. This would be a 2, 3 pair. Means that this one is a 2 or a 3. We know that this would not be a 9 anymore. This couldn't be a 9 anymore. So this would have to be a 6 or a 9. And same with this. These ones could not be a 9 because they're also the P's. This can't be the 9. This can't be the 9. Let's see. We already have a 9. We have a set. We already have the 7, 8 pair, which would force this to also be the 6, which would force this to be a 1. Let's see if there. I'm going deep in here, just assuming that this is a 4. But maybe this is gonna work out with something. 6 there, so that one is our 1. Forces this to be a 6. Which pushes a 6 down here. I feel like this is going really far without stopping. I think I'm gonna undo all this because this is all just under the assumption that this is a 4. That means that where does 4 go on the letters? It has to go here, right? That's the other option. If this is a 4, this is a 1, this is a 9. So let's see if this does anything. We then get no 9 there, no 9 there. This one was our P, right? This is the same as our P, which means all of our P's are 9s. See if this forces anything. This is 1, that makes this not a 1 anymore either. This one couldn't be the 1 or the 4 at that point. We have no 9s here, not a 1. I'm just kind of getting rid of these. This can't be our 4. Get rid of those. I think this one was the 6 regardless. If this one was a 4, I think this one ended up being 6, right? If this, oh, there we go. Since this is a 6, this would have to be a 1. And it can't be a 1. Therefore, our original assumption was correct. That this one is our 4. And we can say for certainty that this one is our 4 now. So that's our 4, that's not our 4, that's not a 1, that's not a 1. This is a 2-3 pair, which means that this one cannot be 2 or 3. This one is a 1. If this is a 4, this is a 9, which means we don't get 9s. Any of these. This is not a 9, we already knew that. If that's a 4, this one is a 9. That's not a 9. So all of our P's are not 9. I already knew all our P's are not 9s because that's I should write that in. I do have letters in here. So let's put a P up there because we do know that is a P. So that's a 9. This one's not our 9. 9 is already taken there. Therefore, these are not 9s. We have a P and an R. I have a 7-8 pair. This one is a 6. This one is a 6 still. Now this one cannot be our 6. That's a 6, that's a 1. That's not a 1. 2-3 pair, the same way we have a 7-8 pair down here. That is not a 1, which means that this cannot be a 6. Oh, but we have a 7-8 pair in here as well. That one is a 9, which means that 9 goes up here. That's a 9. That's not a 9. We have a 2-3 pair here. This cannot be a 2 or 3. That one is the 4, which means this one is also a 9. Oh, and look, and we have this here is a 5. That's a 4. That's good to know. That one's no longer a 5. That's not a 9. No, this has to be a 2, because one of these is a 7, and this is reaching both of them. So this is a 2. That's a 3. Which would make this the 8, and that's the 7. Cannot do the same thing down here just yet. Oh, and we do know now that one of these is the 5. Because there's not a 5 anywhere else. We actually know what these digits are. And these digits are a 1-5 pair, which makes this the 5 and that the 1. That is not a 1. So there's a 6 in one of these two spots. And then there's a 2, 3, or 4 in the other one. There's a 5 here. There's a 5 over here. Put that in here. Let's just do some normal Sudoku for a little bit. So it's nice we can just double click this. That means that there's a 1 down here. There's going to be a 1 in one of those 3 spots. It's the only 2 we have in here. Only 3. What about 4? So put a 4 in one of these 2 spots. Otherwise, there's a 4 in one of those 4 spots, but that's a little too many to put in. We do have a lot of 5s now. We still have the 5 in one of these 2 spots. We then have the 5 there. 5 is going to be one of these 3. 5 is going to be in this square here. And then 5 here is going to be in this square. So let's just leave that. There is a 6 down one of those 2 spots. That's kind of all we have with that. Oh, there's a 6 here, and there's a 6 in one of these 4 spots. Super helpful. That's the only 7, the only 8. We do have a lot of 9s in right now. There's a 9 in one of these 2 spots. 9s are all filled in the middle. There's not a 5 here. So there's a 5 in one of those 3 spots. There's a 5 up here, and then there's a 5 in 9. I keep saying 5. There's 9 in one of those 2 spots. We may as well make that green, because we do know that's low. So then one of these is pink, one of these is green. We'll just toss that in there. We just don't know which is which. Does this 7, 8 down here help us at all? Because if this is a 7, then this becomes a 1, 2. This would be an 8, and then since that's a 1, 2 down there, because we can't put a 3 next to a 7, then this would have to be a 3. That would be an 8. That would be a 7, which does not work. Which means that this one's not a 7, this one is the 8. This is the 7. That's a 7, that's an 8. This is a 1 or a 2. And this is down between a 1, 2, or 3. But we do know that the P's now are all 7s, which means that the A is a 3. That's a 2. That's a 3. That one is not a 3. Which means that this is between a 2, 4, 6. Are all the letters accounted for now? Because we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, all the letters are accounted for. That's good to know. Hopefully this can go a little bit quicker now. That's now a 1. Maybe we can redo some Sudoku now. That's not a 1. Let's go and double check some of these digits. There's a 1 over here. There's still just a 1 down here. There's a 1 down here. And a 1 over there. We do know there's a 2 in one of these 2 spots. Oh, we do. Oh, that is not a 4. That is a 2. That's a 4, 6. We still don't know if it's which is which though. Any other 2s here then? There's not a 2 there. There is a 2 there. So we still need a 2 down here, which is going to be in one of these 2 spots. We need to put a 2 down here. It's not there. It's not there. So it's going to be in one of those 2 spots. And which means that the 2 is going to be over here in one of these 2 spots. We do have a 3 down here. We also have a 3 up here. And then we need to put a 3 in these 3 boxes still. But a 3 not here, not here. This 3 is somewhere in those 2. This 3 is either here or here though. Which forces a 3 in the middle here, which is in one of those spots. This is getting a little full down here. I don't think we got any more 4s. We already have a 4 down there. And there's a 4 in one of those 3 spots. There's a 4 in one of those 4 spots. I think we're fine with that. Already got the 5s here. We only have a few 6s. We already have those down there. 7s. We do have more 7s. 7, 7. 7's down here. So we have a 7 in one of these spots. Oh, no, it cannot be a 7. There we go. That's a 7. Which means that that's our 1. We did uncover a spot here, which is nice. But there's nothing underneath it, so not that nice. And there's a 7 here. Let's move to 8s. 8 is down here. It's in one of those 2 spots. There's an 8 here. Which then pushes the 8 down into one of these 2 spots. 9 is in one of these 2 spots here. Okay, we do have a lot in this column. So we know that these are between a 5, a 6, and a 1. 1s can't go here. We already have a 1. That's our 1. That's our 6. That's our 5. Oh, look, so 3s. Where can 3s go in this bottom column? It's either here or here. This is where the 3s are, which means that this is not a 4. And if we want to, we can just say that now this is everything. This can only be a 3-8. This can only be a 3-8-9. This is just a 2-9, and this is just a 2-3. Oops. That is just a 2-3. Actually, let's leave the 2-3 up there as well. Actually, we could fill in all of these. This then becomes a 2-9-6. That was not a 9. That was not a 2. 3-8-9-4. It looks like. This is not an 8-9. That is not a 3-8. There's only 3 digits that can be here, which is going to be a 3, 5, and 8. No 5 there. No 3 there. 2, 3, 4, 6. This is a 2, 3, 4, 6, but it can't be a 2 or a 6. That one's just a 3 or a 4. Oh, if that one's just 3, 4, that one's just a 3, 4. That means that these cannot be a 3 or a 4. So that one is a 2. That one's a 6. That's a 3. That's a 9. That's a 4. That's a 3. And this is why we number things, because now we can just fill stuff in. Beautiful. And that is our, that is our 6. That is our 4. So let's just leave those in there, and that is a 4. We might need to do coloring later, but we'll see. This then leads us to being a 4 or a 5, and that's already in there. This becomes a 1, 6, 8. That's our 8. We do have a 1, 6 pair here. That's no longer an 8, which means that that's an 8. That can't be that's now the 2. And the 6 up there was given, which means it can't be a 9 anymore. So that's our 9. We have a 1, we have a 7, we have a 1, a 6. That's not a 2, so that one's a 2. That's not a 7, so that one's a 7. That's not a 3, so that's a 3. Let's get rid of these numbers in here. That's not a 3, so that's a 3. A 4, which goes here. 5, which goes there, so that's our 5. That's our 9, and that's our 6. Solved. That took a little while, but we got there and eventually. Ooh, how did you all do? That was a good little puzzle. It took me a while to get through it. That was fun. See you guys next time.